But anyway, once we picked up Jig domestically, we were a top two team. I can't even lie. Oh, it was hard. You grinded a whole year just for it to come down to 1 or 2 days. We were versing Kelton's Knights and we won, and we were like, oh, did we just make a major?
Where was that flick between Atlanta, Copenhagen? We're here, we're enjoying it, we're competitive enough to top 8 in the world. Like what changed between those periods?
And yeah, even just said that they're pretty keen. It's not going well. They're keen to get Tuhan in and bench me.
Welcome to the very first podcast. I might have already recorded one or two, but I couldn't let my boy Odah be anyone but first. Anastasios Hatsis? Have I got it right?
That is correct, Manik.
More formally known as Odah, or for those of you that think you know your history, he is, I believe, now the most represented player from OCE at international events if we don't look at Virtue. So domestic players, I think you might have represented us the most, mate. That's
actually...
certainly in the last 3 or 4 years, no one has topped you. And I think if we look all the way back, it's really Mag, but Mag didn't. I mean, he went to Japan. You're still in OCE. You're still in OCE, and you're doing this. Look,
I was actually talking to Mag the other day about that. Me and him compared our Siege history.
How did it go?
I think I've made more events, but he's got better results.
Yeah, okay. Well, that makes a little bit more sense. I think that, look, whether the OCE League qualifying you directly to a major or not might help with that, Odah, I don't know. It's not going to help you anymore, which we will talk about a little bit later in this bad boy. But, of course, we're kind of going through, just for anyone who might be viewing this for the first time, talking to different players from throughout, players, coaches, talent from throughout Siege, get a little bit of their background story and get to know them as players a little bit more. It's something that I don't have a lot of strategic knowledge when it comes to Siege. Shock horror. One thing I do enjoy is a good chin wag. Hey. You don't need to start there, mate. But how about we start with your story and how this all kicked off? What got you into Siege?
To be honest, it was my IRL friend group. I actually went away to Greece. This was another time. Oh. Didn't get dropped that time.
Just remember that. Just for everyone, hold on to that. He went to Greece once and didn't get dropped. We'll be back on that one in a bit.
Yeah, so I went to Greece, and I came back, and all my mates were just playing this new game, Rainbow Six Siege, and I was like, oh yeah, no worries. Got back from holidays, bought it on console on PlayStation, and yeah, never looked back. I just kept grinding it.
It's funny how many players actually have started from console. Way too many. I come from a Counter-Strike background, so it's not exactly like you can get... you used to be able to get Counter-Strike on Xbox, but not so much anymore. But you look at it, and so many of the pros, so many former pros all come from Xbox and found the love of the game and then transitioned to PC, which I think is a very niche market in itself, and something that I will be sure to continue to kind of keep track. You are the second person I've interviewed. Both of you started on console. So I'm going to start a tally of how this goes. But of course, since you're the first one, we'll pretend like I haven't spoken to anyone else and you're the only person I've spoken to, the person that I love with all my heart. So you started on console, moved across to PC. When did you start playing competitive? When did things start to click for you and look to be a little bit more serious with it?
I kind of got into comp straight away, like maybe 1 or 2 seasons into my PC switch. I came over, was it Chimera? It was Lion when Lion came out. And I was just playing ranked with IRLs, and then I ended up finding Warm OJ.
Wow.
Yeah, so I found Warm OJ, ex-pro player now, and he kind of said to me, oh, I'm trying to play comp, would you be interested? And I was like, yeah, me and my IRLs are actually trying to look to make a team. So me, my IRLs and Warm OJ, and we grabbed a few other players, like Novakes was another early one.
Oh my goodness,
that we played with.
Names around.
Yep. So we kind of just made like a little pug team and played like those Go Fours. Go Fours are massive back in the day. So just kind of got around that, and slowly, you start meeting like the top dogs like Todd and all that stuff. And that's just kind of how I got into like the under 18 scene. Just IRLs, Warm OJ, and that's when you meet people like Digital, when you start versing the other under 18 pros and stuff like that. That's kind of how I got into it.
Looking back, for me, probably Six Masters 2019 was like the first time where we had under 18s competing in amongst the pro teams. From my perspective, because I only joined in 2019, that was like, I couldn't believe how many young gunners there were, dude. Like that completely changed the outlook of the game. And I think if you look at it now, like, not to take it too lightly, but I think it's Lunchbox and Scars that are the two that's
The youngins.
the youngins that have only kind of broken through. But there was definitely a wave of you that came through. Who was on like the team that kind of broke you guys out as like a competitive and viable option in the comp scene?
So when I was under 18, I teamed with like people like Vlad, Steffi T, Stick, Deptra is probably a more known one.
Wow.
In my under 18s team.
Yeah.
Who then we got picked up by like Todd, Shade, and all that. They looked at us because we were scrimming them, probably farming them back then. But yeah, there was a lot of players like that.
Mate. Not so much
No,
nowadays.
not so much. But yeah, like back in the day, you had like people like Prez in the under 18 scene. You had Josh.
Yeah.
You had Digital. You had Geo. Like half the talent pretty much came from that scene. And people were just grinding back then when we were under 18. You don't see it now much. All these people, like we used to finish school, come home and do 3 maps of scrims. And then bedtime, school, come back, repeat. No one's really putting in that much grind anymore being under 18.
Yeah. Do you think that's infrastructure based? Do you think it's the fact that like there just isn't something viable for them to compete in? Because Go4s were just like, mate, the amount of times I used to hear Go4s when I first started doing ESL Pro League, it was ridiculous. I heard it every week.
Yeah, Go4s were a good one. It was just, like every Saturday, it might lead into the Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone kind of played for the Go4 Cup, the charm. Everyone wanted it.
Yeah.
But you would have like people who even had a charm that would just keep coming back and back and back because there was all those under 18 teams playing. That was their officials. Oh, we got Go4 on Saturday, boys. We got to rock out, you know what I mean? But we had other stuff as well. Like we had the LPL, we had the Six Masters where we were able to compete against the pro teams. So I feel like back then there was more to play for, and people just had an ego back then. Like we were versing EXT back in the day or Down4, and you were playing to beat them. It didn't matter about the prize money. You were playing for the ego. Yeah,
it's changed a lot now. I think it almost became too good for a little while to the point where now you look at the OCE League, and look, for anyone who is an OCE League fan or a viewer even, and you just kind of tune in, you'll know it's very entertaining at the very least, but the quality of Siege has dramatically dropped off, especially realistically in the last 2 years. It's been tough to try and integrate a high level gameplay. If there ever was, I think the closest thing would have been, when you and the rest of those guys were in amongst it back in 2021. That was a very interesting year, which I'm sure we'll kind of transition to a little bit now. But was Bliss your first big start? What was the first footstep into like, hey, I could actually be one of the best players in OCE?
Yeah, I would say when we transitioned from getting picked up into my first actual Pro League team, so I went from Team Ferox into Team Bliss, which was so it was with like Vlad, Steffi T, like Deptra and all that, and then Deptra actually moved on to his pro team, and I was a season after him. So that's when I kind of knew that like, all right, now people are starting to look at under 18s players or people who just turned 18 to go into the next Pro League season. And the way I got my start is I used to team with Todd and Novex and stuff, where we tried to qualify for Pro League, but we missed out to like Mims and Angmo and stuff back in the day, like when they were like just starting into Pro League as well. So we had to verse them to make it in. And unfortunately we lost, but then Todd got picked up by, it was the old Fury roster, which was like Shade, like where Rock was, like Warden and all that, all those old names.
So that was Spruce's roster, yeah?
Yeah, well, Spruce would have been in there at some point.
Oh my god! And that's where the meme "Spruce was the problem" started. Cool.
Yeah, so kind of transitioned from not making it to half my team getting introduced to that roster.
Yeah.
And then we kind of like low key took over. Like we kind of like slowly pushed the old Fury roster, and my team got pushed in. Like Todd, Naz, and me. We kept Shade and Sushi.
Yeah.
That was like kind of like the core from the Fury roster. And after that, that's kind of where I was like, oh, Mum, I'm in Pro League now. I'm actually getting paid $80 a week. And she was like, oh, $80? Oh, that's good. You're playing games for $80 a week. It's whatever. I was working at a restaurant as well.
Yeah.
Dish pig and cooking and shit.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, that's when I was like, oh, I'm getting some pocket change. Maybe I can make something of myself.
And in the timeline, whereabouts is this? Is this 2019 or 2020?
This might have been, I'd say like maybe end of 2019 going into 2020, I think.
Yeah, because I think if I'm, see, this is where the timeline gets a little foggy for me. I'm pretty sure 2020 was the end of ESL Pro League. I think that was the last year that it ran, and then we had an Oceanic Nationals at the end of the year, and then the following year is when APAC South started, which I think is a very pivotal part of your career, or maybe should I say missing part of your career. That one was a little elusive, but let's kind of talk about 2021 a little, because that was the year where we still refer to it on broadcast and behind the scenes as the golden age of Siege and OCE. We had some of the greatest players that we had, I guess, ever created in OCE, all competing. We had teams with full orgs, fully supported. We had international involvement. It was probably one of the greatest moments of prosperity before that bubble burst. But you guys broke onto the scene as Bliss. That was really the first time that we all started to notice 2021 era was kind of like, hey, we've got 4 teams that are doing super well right now. We had Knights, Odah, Chiefs, all of those rosters that were pushing the wild card as well, were all doing phenomenally well. Yeah. But you guys domestically, you were the one that just like kept knocking on that door every single stage back when we had 3 stages. Can you tell me what that was like, trying to, I guess, compete with teams that were, qualified to APAC South and going off to majors?
Yeah, so they kind of all started at the end of 2020 when we fought Relos, and then we're like, we picked up Repics. We're like, we've got to fight Relos. We'll pick up Marty, and we'll come into 2021 and try to have a big year. And that's pretty much what it was. We started with Marty, and I believe, I can't remember if we made the grand final of the first stage. I think we did. We made the grand final against the Chiefs, but no, we didn't. We made the gauntlet, the first gauntlet, where it was, I think Chiefs ran that gauntlet, right?
Yeah, they ran the whole thing. Yeah, that was where they're like the Chiefs really kicked off, was that time.
I remember we had to versus Rufflecopter, and that was our rival back in the day because we were like the bottom teams.
Yeah.
We pumped everyone like in the stage pretty much. I think we lost against Chiefs and Knights only the play days.
Yep.
And then we got to Rufflecopter and we copped a loss in the gauntlet. And that was a big ego match. And we lost it and we were like, fuck. And then we picked up Jigsaw. And that's kind of where we went from like, we were playing good, but that's when we played better. And then, getting Jigsaw in is when we started, beating a Chiefs or a Knights. We were pretty consistent against like the Orders, and like the wild cards were a bit of a 50-50 one.
Yeah.
But once we picked up Jig domestically, we were a top 2 team. I can't even lie.
Oh, easily.
But we'd still check a grand final of the Chiefs, but we always did.
I mean, dare I say the curse? Dare I even bring that up? I remember this will, I think everyone will remember the era where you guys made grand finals consistently, or just versus Chiefs in final series, whether it was grand final, semi-final, and every single time Chiefs just had your number. And then we started to, on the broadcast, rightfully so, might I add, start to say, hang on a second, BO1 Andes, what's going on here? And I still remember to this day, shout out Todd, but also Todd, you absolute moron, got in our DMs and is like, stop saying it, it's not true. And we're like, okay, you beat everyone in best of ones. I think you guys even beat Chiefs in best of ones. Then it gets to best of threes and things get a little rough. But at the same time, it was a very interesting dynamic. And I don't know what it was like for you guys, but especially for the broadcast team, like 14 play days a stage, 7 split across, APAC South, 7 split in the OCN. There was a lot of competition back there. There was a lot of games being played every week that we were watching. So we had a really keen eye, I guess, on the teams that were starting to push that envelope further than just being like a Rufflecopter or a Rhythm, as just an example, where it's like, you guys will consistently push to mid-table, but you'll never be able to push past that. Where was that tipping point for you guys? Because it just like all of a sudden it felt like things clicked. Like you've said, Jigsaw was a huge part of it, but like, was there a moment where you all started to realize this is actually something that we can take seriously and we will be able to make it to APAC South?
Yeah, I think once we because it was like a point system, right? It was like in the OCE League, it was like apart from the APAC South teams, so it was like us, Ruffle, LFO, I believe, and Rhythm.
Yeah.
There was a point system of, if you have the most points, the top two have the most points, go to Relos. And we kind of looked at it as, once we started making those grand finals, we're like, hold on, we're actually on for APAC South relegations here.
Yeah.
Once we knew that, you're also looking at the APAC South League and you're looking at the bottom two teams, right? You're looking at the wildcards, the Orders.
Yeah.
There was, who we like Arpe and all that stuff. They were down the bottom there. I think it was Renatus or the Last Dance or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was those boys. Yeah, you kind of look at those standings. Once you make a few grand finals and you have those points, you're like, all right, now next step is APAC South.
Yeah.
So then we kind of started focusing on that in scrims and practicing for those ping teams or stuff like that.
Do we dare start talking about it, Odah? Do we talk about the horrors? Probably one of the biggest pitfalls I have ever seen any team walk into. We to give context to anyone watching, the whole year we were looking at Bliss. The whole year, like Jigsaw, Repix, and yourself you guys were like the firm core. And obviously, I think Sushi was still playing at that point. Like you guys still had phenomenal players that were coming along with you for the ride. However, there was a very clear core three that we could tell. You mainly because you fucking did all the interviews, you bastard. But the other two, like Repix and Jigsaw, consistently top fragging in the server against incredible teams. And we were sitting there like, these guys are going to make APAC South and they're going to go to a major. Like there's no doubt in our mind. And then APAC relegations happened. And we blinked and it was over. We were absolutely gobsmacked. We were heartbroken, but I don't think we've ever even discussed that time. We've alluded to it. We've joked about it a little bit. Was it gut wrenching?
Oh, 100%. Because we played the relegations from the Team Bliss HQ, right? So we've had a boot camp. We've had the org around. I think it was our first time actually like meeting the org and everyone.
Yeah.
So picture us in the boot camp room playing the official. You win first map. Everyone's high. Yeah, fuck yeah. And then you lose second. It's like, oh, whatever, boys, you got another chance. And then you lose that. And then, the managers come up, you got Brandy, you got Edge. Oh, sorry, boys, you tried your best in that. And you've grinded the whole year for that moment.
Yeah.
And when it comes to that moment, it was just not good. I think we only won first match because of Repix. He just popped off, and then we're like, yeah, nice. And then the other two series, like the other two maps, everyone just shit the bed, and we just weren't ourselves that day.
Yeah.
But to be honest, if you want the whole story of that,
please, this is what we're here for, mate. We're here to break it down.
That boot camp, I kid you not. Prime D1 Kia was that era, by the way.
Yep.
Prime D+. We were farming them in scrims.
No.
9-3s, 9-3s, CAG, 9-3s, 9-3s. We were farming everyone. We actually felt like unbeatable. And then when it came to game day, Shade, we do vetoes. After veto, Shade goes, guys, I think we've lost. I think we lost the veto.
No.
Me, Jig are sitting there like, what are you on about? You can't say that. We're about to go into a BO3 and you're saying we lost the veto. And then you had like Todd and Spruce. I don't know if I can say it on the podcast, but they're out and about at 3 a.m. All right? That's all I'll say.
Boys.
So like, I don't know if the boys weren't locked in. I think Todd was saying the Jig as well on game day. He's like, I don't know why, but I just feel off today.
No.
And you can't do that. It chalks the mental. It gets people like not feeling confident. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that was just the worst thing that happened on that day because our prac was the best it's ever been.
Yeah.
And then it comes to that, and that's all it takes, one game day, and it's all over.
That was the turn. Everyone looked at that at the turning point. Everyone looked at that as like hang on a second, we're not just going to have, Chiefs and Knights pushing for majors, but Bliss are going to be in the conversation. We're going to have a third viable team because at that point, again, context is super important. at this point, Diesel had been gone from a year from Wildcard, and Wildcard had gone through like 5 different iterations of their roster. They couldn't find stability. They couldn't manage to make it work. And Odah were just Odah were Odah. Like I like love those guys to bits, but for whatever reason, those poor bastards could not seem to string a game together to save their life. But it was just so devastating to see you guys lose that. What's the mentality after you lose? After you know, because back again, relegation back in the day, it's not like it is nowadays in OCE League. If you're a new viewer, you would not know the harshness of what APAC South was actually like. You had to wait a full year. There were 3 stages, there were 3 majors and an SI that basically you're done. You were absolutely done for. But how do you guys stick together? How do you see out another year? How do you continue?
Oh, it was hard. You grinded a whole year just for it to come down to 1 or 2 days, and you have a bad day and it's done. That's your whole year gone.
Yeah.
And I think at that time as well, with even going into Relos, IG wanted Jigsaw.
Oh,
so
that's
in the back of your mind, you're like, maybe Jigs already knows he's gone. You know what I mean? You have that in your head. So yeah, once we lost, I think like one of the first conversations we had was, Jig, what are you doing? Are you staying or are you going? And everyone knew, APAC South, IG was in there. They were a great team, Speakeasy, Mentalist, Hysterics and all that. Why wouldn't you go?
Yeah.
And then we ended up losing Todd because he was like, Chiefs have offered me a coaching gig. That's APAC South. He's pretty much got what he wanted. Then we had to rebuild. But, even though some good things come to an end, other things happen, like Fishoguy and God Legion getting dropped. That's another thing. A change that really didn't need to be made. And, us picking up Fishoguy, look what it led to. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it was crazy.
That was at that point in my career for Siege. That was like, I'd seen some pretty interesting roster moves. I'd seen some interesting decisions. I can't talk. Okay. I need to preface this for everyone at home. I can't talk about what happens with these players off camera. I can't tell you what happens in scrims or the months leading into tournaments. That was one of the dumbest decisions that we had seen. Dropping God Legion and Fishoguy, who from the outside, Fishoguy was just such a strong figurehead as like an analytical player that could lead you to games, and God Legion was just solid, man. I don't think God Legion ever dropped below a 1.0 rating in any game I ever watched. He was really solid. That happens, everything crumbles, but I mean, you guys benefit like at the end of it. When did they join on? Was that was 2022 they joined you guys?
Yeah, 2022. It was right after, they pretty much got announced as, being dropped, and I had Golden under us, with us, and I pretty much said to him, like, we've lost Jig and Todd.
Yeah.
Fisher and God are now free agents. You want to, hit them up? I think it took him a bit of convincing, because obviously, if you're getting dropped from an APAC South team, and pilot program teams were getting paid good money then, it's hard to go back to, like, the normal host team.
Yeah.
So it took a bit of convincing, but they finally like jumped on board, and we just grinded out another year. You know what I mean? We're getting ready for Relos, but then after that year, it all changed to the new format.
Yeah. And viewers again at home, once again, I'm going to add a little bit of context that I know of. I can personally tell you, I know that wages were 5 to 8x what they are nowadays back in the APAC South days because of pilot program. That changed the complete course of everything for the OCE players and OCE teams, which meant that everyone can be a little bit more professional about it, which obviously is such a shame that so many of us just kind of, not many of us, so many of you guys ended up dropping out when it came to the end of 2022 and things started to, I guess, transition to what we've got now, which is Blast and the opportunities that the OCE League presented, which were never, ever have they ever been this great for OCE teams to be able to qualify. And obviously that's changing this year. So a flash in the pan and it's all gone. But end of 2022 is a big moment in your career, Odah. One of the biggest moments, I think, of anyone's career I've ever seen in OCE. The Wrecked Combine.
Mate, the Wrecked Combine was probably like one of the best moments in my life. And like, I'm not even joking. Like, people always say that, think I'm taking the piss.
No.
I kid you not, that was the turning point in my career in a way of like, I became like kind of like a top dog, or like my performance shot up, right?
Yeah.
Like, I think that event, me and Brenda were battling it out for like the best MVP, like best KD. Like we were pretty much dropping 20s almost every game. I can't even lie. Like we were both just popping off. And that's just kind of where like I was like, holy shit, I'm a good player. You know what I mean? Like before I could compete.
Yeah.
But now I was like, I am a good player now. Like I'm a top 5 player in the region, I would say.
Easy. Yeah. I think that, especially like, with the talent that came in, some of the talent that left, there was this massive gap. You filled it instantly. Brendo filled it instantly. And funnily enough, you two went on to be and have consistently been some of the best players, if not the best players in the region ever since then. But again, Rect Combine, think of the most scuffed LAN environment you've ever considered.
It was so good, bro.
It was incredible. Like there was something so raw about it. It was like, we crammed into one room about 40 different people. There was only 2 gaming setups, 5v5, literally right across from each other. You could hear what each other was saying through the mics. Wasn't really well thought out technically, but it made for some incredible moments. One of the greatest grand finals that I think Siege has ever. I'm going to even say it was better than the SI grand final. It was incredible. It was an absolute hoot, but things transition, I guess, away from APAC South and OC. Was it OCN there? It was Oceanic National.
OCN, yep.
Yeah, and then we transitioned really quite rapidly into the Blast format, which I think took all of us by surprise when we first heard, hey, OCE League, number 1 slot goes direct to a major. Does that just change everything for you guys? Is that like, do you now look at that and go, I mean, the world's the oyster kind of thing?
Well, around that era, a lot of people didn't know what was going on. I think that's why a lot of pro players pulled out, is because they were like, oh, we lost our APAC South slot.
Yeah.
We lose Pilot. They didn't know what was going on. They thought they were going to lose Pilot. They thought they weren't going to make majors anymore. Like, everyone had no clue what was going on. And then Blast came along and just drops it, like, bang. I think the prize pool got bigger.
Huge.
We have direct major slot.
Yep.
And I remember talking to Digital, I was like, oh man, Blast just like announced all this shit. And he was like, are you serious? Why did I leave? Yeah, you know what I mean? So that was a big change and just made everyone kind of hungrier, and you kind of didn't know what the teams were going to look like at that time. So I think that first season, it could have been anyone's game, you know what I mean?
Yeah. If everyone had stayed, I would have loved to have seen what
would have been crazy.
It would have been
100%.
It probably would have been the greatest tournament we've ever seen in Oceania. That stage 1 of 2023, because like it was like everyone was let loose. Every single player in the region was like, wait a second, a direct qualifier. All we got to do is win our games in OCE. There's no LAN. There's no, literally, it was BO. That's right. There wasn't even playoffs.
There was no playoffs.
Oh,
the first one.
My God. I remember that. And that was one of even the bigger talking points, because I think teams were able to qualify by like the 5th play day, which was like, everyone was like, that just seems so broken for a team. But you guys come in really as the only established roster, if I remember back then. There were a couple of ragtag teams, some very interesting names popping together. But the first major, I mean, we can talk about the OCE League if you want to and what that changed, but realistically, I don't think that for you guys, the OCE League was the talking point of 2023. I think it was the international experience. First major, that was the one we'd been waiting for 2 years. That's what everything built towards. So what you step off the plane, you're in a LAN environment. How rapidly does that change?
It was actually crazy, and I'll actually go back to the OCE League for that one, because when we actually, like, I think we still had one more play day, but it was this the 6th play day where we actually called for it. We were versing Kelton's Knights and we won, and we were like, oh, did we just make a major? Like, there was no hype, because literally all the teams were shit. Like, I don't know how else to explain it. They were. It's when we just picked up Sage on as well.
Yeah.
So we kind of just had this beast roster, right? Me, Brendo, Sajon, Jig, Fisho. Like, it was crazy back then. And then, we were, on the last play day, we had Ludovica, who was meant to be the second best team, which they were. We already qualified, so it didn't even matter.
No.
So, and we still beat them. But then, then we end up going on a plane to Denmark, Copenhagen. And that was just one of the best experiences, I can't lie. Yeah. We flew in, we dropped our bags off at our hotel that the Team Bliss booked for us. and then we headed to the Astralis HQ in Copenhagen, and mate, that was sick. We had our own booth there. I think M80 at the time was there as well. And then like the CS teams were there, so like Device, and I had no clue who they were.
Oh,
So
you're
like,
kidding.
and apparently they're like the goats. You know what I mean? Like I had no clue.
Dude.
Jigsaw's like, oh look, man, it's Device. I don't know who else was there on the CS team, and I was like, oh yeah, okay, yeah.
That's
but yeah, crazy experience.
So, that is blasphemy. I don't give a shit about your Copenhagen experience anymore. Not know who devised to pre-work that. That's not on. You can't not know the golden era.
I had no clue, bro. No,
that's wild. That's wild. But what's even wilder in terms of like probably a feeling for you would be 6 months prior, there was no way to qualify for a major for you. There was like literally you were just cut off, and then all of a sudden to win. I think, did you lose it? I can't remember if you went flawless in the first stage. And,
yeah, we went flawless in the first stage.
So like to not lose a game and to make it all the way and kind of, I guess, have like maybe it was like an anticlimactic experience to then go back to once again climaxing, if you will, peaking. That's like the two ends of that just are very jarring. How was it the first tournament? How'd you feel you played? What'd you feel you learned? Like most people say that their first land, that's where you just realize this is a different game. This is a completely different atmosphere.
Yeah, so we kind of realized at boot camp how different it was, right? It's your first time scrimming. We scrimmed like Team Liquid, we scrimmed G2. We scrimmed VP, like all these top teams that you sit at home watching every year, and then you're scrimming against them. No, actually, I kid you not. And this will be a funny story, right? Our scrims, we were close. We were even beating teams like M&M back in the day. We were like 9-3ing them and stuff on Villa. And we were like, holy shit, you know what I mean? And then like we got shit on by Liquid, I'll be honest. Liquid did shit on us, like every scrim. But like G2, we had close like 6-6s, maybe like a 5-7 and all that. Yeah. It was pretty close, but going into the tournament, flogged. We got absolutely flogged. We versed Furia, and this is before Prime Fury, by the way. This is like them leading into their dynasty. Wow. Because they won Copenhagen. It was their first event. And we went to Cafe, and as everyone knows, you don't take, Latam teams to Cafe, and we got pumped like 7-2, 7-1, I think. And the only round we got was just me dropping Skyline, killing 3 people or something. But, yeah, so we go into our first play day versus Furia, who was W7M back then, and we just got pumped.
Yeah.
And then our next game, I believe it was the same day that you played, we versed Varel, who was Japan team. They're probably like a barely top 4, I'd say.
Yeah.
Pumped. I think they pumped us. We got a map, but other than that, they dominated the fuck out of us. We had no clue how to deal with them, because it was our first time versing Japan teams, like on land, 9 ping.
Very different.
Yings, smokes, glass, like all this random shit's just happening, and we didn't know how to deal with it.
Yeah.
And that was kind of it for us. You play those 2 games in the first play day, and then you know what was next? Oh, guys, can you follow us to the booth? We're going to book your flights home.
Oh,
that's all it was. As soon as you lose, that's the first thing they do. It's like, yep, guys, sorry, but we have to do it, and it's understandable. You're not going to pay for you to stay the whole event.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was. I think we stayed one more day, and then that was it. We were flying home, and that was our first event.
That is a stark experience. Well, actually, I would say it's a stark experience what you have just in OCE in general, but I feel like every team from OCE had the exact same talking point, dude. It's like
100%.
You go over there, you see the difference, like maybe not mechanically you don't see the difference, but you see it strategically. You see it in the teamwork, in the comms, all the small things that like in OCE League, you don't even have to think about, right? Which is
100%.
Probably where things even changed more for you and the team as a roster is you guys came back like reinvigorated. You guys came back a completely different team. And I think that's held on for, the following 16 months after you made that first event.
Yeah.
Stage 2 comes around and you pick up, is that when you picked up the big Wettables? Oh my days. So give me some background there, because to all of us, like Wettables was a bottom 4 team player. And he said it in an interview with me, so I can
yeah.
repeat what he said. But he kind of came out of almost nowhere for that roster when you consider the likes that you had to pick up from. So like, where's the reasoning for it?
So we lost Jigsaw to Koi.
Yep.
So we had to fill some pretty big shoes. And we didn't know who we wanted or who was a good option, right? We ended up trialing Wet and Pinku. That was like our first go-to, because I think Pinku was kind of just like shocking people. He was fragging and he was hitting crazy shots. I remember like the stock hatch drop shot and all that. He was hitting some crazy shit. And Wet was playing pretty decent as well on the bottom team, but I think we were also friends with him as well. So we played rank with him and all that. And at first we were trialing Wet on a frag role, same with Pinku. And at first we were looking at getting Pinku actually. And then we kind of realized that, Pinku was good, but is he the best option? So then what ended up happening is Brendo said, why don't we just chuck Odah on a frag role and chuck Wet on a second support role, which is what he was more comfortable on.
Yeah.
So we did that, and I tried to replicate what Jigsaw would do.
Yeah.
Like the same positions, the same plays he would make. I literally just copied them. I copy and paste, mate. I was making them. And then Wet felt more comfortable on that role, and it kind of just felt a lot better. Like, I think Fishoguy was more confident in my fragging ability and the way I played, more than like getting a really mechanical player that would just, pop off, but he didn't really understand like the plays and the strats we were going with.
Yeah.
So that was just kind of the decision. We decided to get Wet, and it actually started rough because, we just went from being undefeated, going into picking up Wet, doing a boot camp, into our first 2 play days. And who did we verse? Kelton's Knights, who were not scrimming, but they were ex-pros, like really good pros.
Yeah.
And we lost, I believe it was 8-7 on Bank.
Yeah.
And then we were having comm issues at that boot camp because you're really close to each other, and we were either picking each other up in our mics or like you just wouldn't be able to hear shit.
Yeah. And
that was a big struggle for us where it came to play day 2. And it was kind of like, we spent like the whole day fixing audio. We were coming really softly. That's how we fixed it. We're like, okay, guys, one's on me, one's blue. It wasn't like, well, on me, blue. It was like a complete different change of comms in just one day.
Yeah.
And that was just how we got around that. And we ended up going OT but getting the win. And they were massive points to finish off that stage. Like, we needed that OT win.
Yeah. It's kind of funny. You got a little rinsed on broadcast of that one. There was a lot of discussions around like, oh shit, is Wettables the right person to pick up?
Everyone thought that.
Yeah, it was the big one, and I think it was kind of a little more known that like Wet was just going through a tough time that first week as well. Like he was just trying to, I guess, acclimatize to the fact that you're all in person as well. But he's on a new roster where the expectations are no longer to compete; it is to win. Like there is no question. Bliss's expectations going into stage 2 was flawless, and fortunately, you guys pulled yourselves up by your bootstraps in the 3rd play day until the very end, which kind of got you back across that line. As we start to look at these international events, you qualify stage 2, you then go to SI. Like, let's kind of jump a little bit into 2024 now, just kind of time warp a bit. Experience under the belt. You guys are looking good at international events. You're becoming a formidable force. People are saying at international events, hey, like we need to genuinely, let's stop taking the piss. Let's actually look at this as a viable team that can beat us. How did you guys feel at these international events? Did you feel as though you were living up to your own expectations? Did you feel like there was more left in the tank when you left? What's the vibe?
I think our first 2 events where we went to, say, Copenhagen and Atlanta, 0 expectations. We expected to, come last, maybe get a win here and there or a map win.
Yep.
And then we go to the 6 Invitational, and that was when we were kind of like, we're not here just to attend anymore. We're here to fucking win it.
Yeah.
So our mentality kind of changed, right? And that's when we started, we took a map off, I think, FaZe from the group stage. We lost the series, we took a map off them. And then we ended up
won that game as well. I think you were up like 5-3 or something at one point.
Yeah. It was a very winnable BO3.
Yeah.
I think we had SSG as well, which we lost to.
Yep.
We had Wolves, which we first lost to them. And then we had D+. And all it took for us was to beat D plus. That's all we needed to get out of groups, and we
Yep.
did that. Coded was body shooting me, and I made a nice little tweet after that one. But anyway, and then we get to like I think it was the playoffs after that, or what's it called? The planes or something?
Phase 2, yeah, whatever.
Phase
I look
two,
at them at
yeah.
phases, yeah.
Phase 2, and we came up against Fury. So it was another APAC team.
Yeah.
I believe we 7-0'd them on the first map. Then they actually pumped us, I believe. And then third map, we came back.
Yep.
Then after that, it was Wolves again. And we've already beaten Wolves at Atlanta once, but then they just beat us in the group stage. So it was a pretty close, we're pretty close with them. And I just remember they won first map. Mowgli's cocky as fuck. He's giving it to us, like he's talking shit. And I remember Oregon, which was by the way, one of their shittest maps, like barely scrimmed it. We 7-2'd them or something.
Yeah, wow.
And then walking out of like that game, like the 5-minute break before map 3, bro, Mowgli, I think it was Bieber as well, like just giving it to each other, like it's like, what the fuck are we doing and shit. And we're sitting there like, boys, they are rattled. Like we didn't go into this third map, which was I think it was Consulate. And I think we pumped them again. Or it was a 7-4 maybe, and we beat them. And then we were like, we'll hype. Because it was our second time beating them, but beating any international team, you just hype as fuck.
Of course.
And I think beating them there put us in top 8, I believe.
Yep.
Like 8th or 9th or something. And then we had the versus G2. But one thing we messed up on is we seen that we were top 8 from all the tweets. We're like, we're up against like the best 8 teams in the world, and you see Team Bliss, and you're just like, what? Yeah. And then it's like, next play day is G2. But I think in our minds we clocked out. We were done. We were like, we've done what we came for.
Yeah.
We still played pretty good against G2. We had like a 5-1 lead on Oregon.
Yep.
But after that, got pumped. Second map, our map got pumped, and that was the end of our SI run.
Yeah.
But that was kind of like the point where we were like, we've placed top 8. We can compete against these teams no matter what. So that's why going into Manchester was the next event for us.
Yep.
And we beat, I think is it E3 or something? Or E1 is what they were called in the TEM League. That was our first game.
Yep.
And everyone was typing them up. We had really no clue who they were, but they placed top 2 on the TEM. They were one of the best like Nighthaven Labs teams apparently.
Yep.
We actually did the videos with them, and I think it was Perez. He looks at me and goes, "Good luck, you will need it."
Oh.
and I look at him and I go, "Are you sure about that? We'll see." Because we were pretty good at labs. We were confident as fuck. And this guy was just like, he was ready to give it to me, eh? And then we beat him. We beat him 9-3, like proper like beat him, eh? And after the game, he just gives me the biggest smile and just starts laughing, eh? It was so good. It was such a good feeling. And then we actually ended up speaking to him like a few days later, and he was like, Labs is one of our best maps. Like, we beat FaZe and Fury on it all the time, and you guys like 7-3'd us. So like, yeah, Manchester was kind of the event where we started beating more teams. Like, we beat M80 as well. We're beating Sploit, one of the best players, the most paid players. They had Citizen. They had, I think it was Cameraman as well at the time. Beating that roster as an OCE team is pretty crazy.
It's huge. Beating any international team as an OCE team really hallmarks it. What was going through, I guess, the team at that phase? Because, and I'm talking kind of primarily SI, because obviously Manchester was almost like it was a flow-on effect from what happened at SI. The fact you guys were so competitive. Where was that flick between, okay, Atlanta, Copenhagen, we're here, we're enjoying it, we're competitive enough to like top 8 in the fucking world? Like, what changed between those periods?
I think it's more of a mental switch. We kind of used those first 2 majors to build a new system, I would say. Like, we took everything we learned from scrimming teams. We kind of spoke to we spoke to Titan when he was back in G2. He kind of like Sage would sit around at events, and he would just have chats with Titan. How does your team work? Titan would ask us the same sort of thing. Yeah. And he would just give us like input, or like even like other coaches as well. Like call out from SSG was pretty helpful for us as well.
Good lad.
Oh yeah, 100%. So we kind of just took all that in, and then our mentality just changed. We're like, we're sick of just coming to these events and flying home the next day. Let's actually try compete now. Yeah. So just like game day mentality. We're here to win, not here just to be here. We weren't here for the cameras anymore. We're here to actually win. So that just kind of changed like the results, I guess, just that mental switch, to be honest. Because I think strategically we could compete, probably not as like, but we couldn't hide strats,
Yeah.
but we could use our strats and actually compete against them. So that was just kind of the turning point, and then we kind of just carried that on to every other event.
Then there's EWC.
Then there's EWC.
How
So this is when we
do
actually
we?
pick up Titan.
That's it. How do we transition? Do we transition to EWC? Or do we transition to Titan here? I think Titan makes the most sense, and then the
Yep.
flow and effect to EWC, because obviously things change when you pick up a coach, a player. It doesn't really matter. Whenever you shift any personnel on a team, things are
Yep.
bound to change. EWC comes along. Titan picked up how many months prior to that?
So actually, when GT got eliminated at Manchester, right, to Fear X, he stayed around, so we would just have like breakfast with him and all that sort of stuff.
Yep.
So we kind of just had chats to him about like how we can improve on game day and like what should we expect and be doing going into that sort of thing. So he kind of like opened our minds a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And to us, we were like, holy fuck, this guy's crazy, bro. This guy's so smart. This guy's doing this, this, this. And then he becomes a free agent and he hits us up. So then we're like, oh, we could use this guy. This guy's great. And by the way, we're still under an OCE org. So it's like, we're not getting paid the big bucks.
Yeah.
So he comes over. He probably loses half, maybe even more of his salary to come to us. And then, yeah, we pick him up. I think we picked him up maybe like 2 months after Manchester, or maybe a month and a half or something.
Yep.
Because I think the G2 change happened pretty quick. And we get straight into work with him. We're scrimming, we're doing a lot of theory. He's catching us up on all these different play styles. He was pretty focused on like the way BDS were playing.
Yep.
And this is like during the Furia dynasty. So this is before BDS came out and we're just smashing everyone. But they knew how to play the game really well. So we were kind of just learning a new play style and taking it all in, which I think it was a good thing for the long run. But I think being so close to EWC, we were versing like Tuhan and stuff, and both maps 8-7 wins. They weren't convincing at all.
Yeah, wow.
So we had a lot of work to do, pretty much. Like there was a lot of work to do. But he did change a lot. There was definitely, when Fisher was leading the team, it was all, pen and paper. This is what we're doing, exactly what's on pen and paper. So when Titan comes in and it's like, you guys need to be thinking on the spot and playing at what you're seeing, not what's written in front of you. So it changed like the whole way we played. It changed the way we IGL'd, or the way we shot called.
Yeah.
The way we our vision of the game actually like changed.
Yeah.
Like all strats, this is what's going to happen in the round. Everything was pre-planned.
Yeah. Gotcha.
And then Titan comes in and he's like, you're playing eyes up.
Yeah.
Picture you're playing, on a soccer field.
Yeah.
Coach is writing down plays. You got everything written up.
Yeah.
And then it's like when you actually get to playing, soccer, you're playing eyes up pretty much. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you have to.
So kind of like that was just like the big change for us. And it took a while for us to transition into that. That's kind of why we had a slow start qualifying for EWC. But once we get to the event, we were pretty comfortable in that sort of play style, and we were scrimming teams. We were having close scrims. We were still competing. It's not like we learned something new and we fell behind.
Yeah.
And then we go into our first play against LG. They were cocky as they were like, oh, we're never going to lose to an OCE team, but we were feeling really confident. Titan also brought a whole new like game day vibe, I guess. It was a lot more like looking at notes and looking at how the other team actually plays. Where before we would just focus on ourselves.
Yes.
So we were looking more into other teams and what they like to do. Like our bands, like operated bands, became more targeted.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think against LG, they had 3 players that ran around with Boss G. So we were like, no, fuck that bandit. So he just changed a lot for us, and I think we felt more competitive versing teams. Like we versed Liquid.
Yep.
And because we learned this new way of playing Siege, it was so much more easier to read these top teams. Like Liquid likes to pressure one spot then flip, and they're always looking for a gap. They don't really care. They always like flip to different sides of the map.
Mm-hmm.
So it was just way easier to read. But before we're like, oh, where the fuck did they go? Oh, they're over here now.
Yeah. Gotcha.
So like our vision just changed a lot picking up Titan. But then AWC comes to an end, right? What happens?
Let's break it down, shall we? Let's break it down.
Ugh.
So, okay. I can't give enough context here. So I'm going to explain to anyone who's watching right now that doesn't understand from an outward facing perspective what happened. And then Odah, you can give
Yep.
your account. So EWC finishes. All right. Bliss still on top, still Bliss. Game and Gladiators acquires the Bliss roster at some point throughout the break between EWC and Stage 2. Okay. Odah takes a holiday to Greece. That's known the world round. Odah's off on holidays. Now, what isn't known to the front-facing people is anything about roster moves or anything like that. I heard rumors that there was going to be a player coming into the what was then Bliss, now Game and Gladiators roster. I have no idea. That's not for me to talk about. That's for you to break down. We get to no, it wasn't even 3. It was like a day before the OCE League qualifiers for every other team that isn't GG at that point. Now we're going to say, just for everyone, Bliss is now GG moving forward. So we're talking about GG. GG auto-qual through to Stage 2. And Odah, with, I think it was 24 hours left before those OCE qualifiers started, I get a message from you saying, I just got dropped, lol. And to me, from my perspective, obviously I consider you a very close friend, and I consider you when I see you, we have an absolute ball, mate. I love hanging out with you, but I considered you to be the core of the roster. I'm not talking about strategy, I'm not talking about what you bring competitively, anything like that. From an outward facing perspective, you were what we considered the digital to the old Chiefs. You were the front face, you were the brand, you were everything that everyone played around, and it worked well, and it never faltered across the course of 2 years. You get dropped, I get that message. Obviously, I know a little bit more because we've spoken in depth behind the scenes, but I'm going to allow you to explain whatever you want to. I'm not going to hold you back here. I'm not putting duct tape over your mouth. I'm not holding you at gunpoint. This is up to you here. You get dropped. First, start off on the events that happened leading up to that, and then explain from your point of view how it all unfolded. Because this was, and still to this day, the worst roster move I've ever seen.
Yeah, so pre-EWC, I asked the boys and Golden, because he was our manager, I said, what's our break after EWC? What's it looking like? He goes, we got 2 weeks, then we have qualifiers. Because at that time, we thought because we were leaving Bliss, we had to re-qual. But what ended up happening was Bliss gave us their spot. And so to Ubisoft, our roster's moving on to this org. We want to give them the spot because we're going to hold out for a season. But we'll be back. So what happened is I said, I want to take 2 weeks break. Bliss is going to give us the spot. Because, I was close friends with Edge and Brendy. He said, yep, 2-week break, no worries, doesn't interrupt anything. I said, easy. So when I actually booked my flights back with EWC, I said, can I go to Athens, Greece? They said, yep, sure, that's fine. Because Mum was over in holiday there. So then I'm in Greece for 2 weeks. Actually, no, we're at EWC still. We're having dinner, and the boys go, we might have to re-qual. What do you want to do? And we're talking about players we can pick up to just fill qualifiers. I'm suggesting Repix. He doesn't play competitively. I suggested Saved because he's in and out of teams. He works. I even suggested like Supreme. Just someone just to fill. Literally just someone to fill for a weekend.
Yeah.
We qualify for the league. Bang, they're out. And I think it was Brendo. He goes, "Why don't we get Tuhan?" My initial thought, they're friends. It's going to happen. Straight away, I knew it. Bang. The conversation goes, oh yeah, we could grab Tuhan and disband Antic, which makes our year easier. It made sense low-key because we did have 2 8-7s to qualify for EWC.
Yep.
So it low-key made sense, but I knew because of their friendship that something would happen. So then, we have that talk. Tui's keen. I go to Greece. They fly home. I think they only had like a 3-day break, and then it was back into scrims. I'm watching scrims here and there while I'm away, and it looked rough. I think Tui kind of struggled with learning that play style, And I think not having me there was kind of like a lot of gaps because I was communicating with Titan. I was like, oh, why aren't we doing this when this person sees this gap and he's like, I don't know what these guys are fucking doing, blah blah blah. So yeah, and then this is also a period where our playstyle changed once again. I believe we wanted to play what was it called? We're just constantly looking for gaps at this point.
Yeah.
Just constantly, everyone's communicating. There's a gap here. They're making plays on it. And by the way, I'm away for 2 weeks, and then they're streaming with Tuhan. Apparently, everyone's doing like a lot more theory. I messaged Titan. I'm like, what's changed? What do I need to know for when I come back? He goes, oh, not much has changed. Maybe these 2 maps you've changed the position.
Yeah.
That's all he said to me. So I was like, oh, fine. I don't have to sit here on holiday doing research or like catching up. And then I get back home, and by the way, I'm moving states here. I'm like, we just signed with GG, so that's good money in our pocket. I can go move out of home.
Yep.
And I actually moved in with the Bliss management because they were like, oh, we just got a house here. We have a room to fill.
Yep.
We know you want to move to Brisbane because all my mates are here. And my girlfriend at the time, my girlfriend now, what am I saying? We just started dating at AWC actually.
Yeah, fair.
And then I was like, yeah, no worries, I'll move in. So I actually fly home from Greece. 3 days later, I go to my brother, I'm leaving, I'm moving out. Like, that's it. So I fly to Brisbane. I'm streaming at HQ, Brendy's giving me a PC at the house. I'm streaming everywhere I can. I'm in Brisbane for 4 days, it was. We're doing, I think, midday streams. We're doing night streams. I'm also trying to buy furniture during the day. Like a lot's going on, right? I just moved states, and I had nothing. I bought, new bed, new PC, like the whole lot. All my SI prize money gone. By the way,
see you later.
And then yeah, so 4 days go by. Streams aren't looking too good.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that I was playing shit. It was kind of like the team felt shit, and we were performing like we were like losing. But maybe like 5-7, a few 6-6s still.
Yep.
And we're scrimming pings. I've just been away for 2 weeks. I come back. I'm playing 160 ping at the time. So it's always going to be rough. And I message Golden, and I go to him. What's going on? Do these guys want to play with Tuhan during the stage? So I knew something was up.
Yeah.
He doesn't respond to me. I get added into like a group chat with him and Titan. And by the way, I forgot to mention, at this point, we've already mentioned to Fisho about moving him to coach.
Yep.
And moving me to support, putting Tuhan on frag, and that was going to be a change. And Titan said to us, he goes, if we're going to make changes in the roster, we're not going to go behind people's backs. We're going to do it as a group. Everyone's going to voice their opinion and, say it right, do the right thing. But yeah, I get added to a group chat, which is Golden, Titan, and me. And it's like, Golden doesn't say a word, by the way, this whole time. It's just Titan. Hey, Odah, man. Just want to have a chat. I feel like I failed you as a coach. The boys have brought it to me that, they might want to play the stage with Tuhan. And yeah, he pretty much just said that, like, they're pretty keen. It's not going well. They're keen to get Tuhan in and bench me.
Oh.
And I was like, that whole time I was like, yeah, no worries. And that night, the same night, like 2 hours later, we had our GG meeting. Introducing ourselves, like, hey guys, this is this. Contracts are ready. We'll send them soon. And then I get benched. Titan goes, oh, I'd like you to be at the meeting still. Sure. So I rocked up to the meeting. They're talking about contracts, whatever. I'm not gonna go into detail. And I'm just there. I'm like, why am I here? But while I'm in that meeting, I'm messaging Jigsaw. I'm like, yeah, just got benched. Ha ha ha. When you back home, who are you working with? I really want to play the stage. Qualifies this weekend, and I've already got boys that are interested in just picking me up straight away. Which was like the Ludovica boys, like Cairo, Tex, Player, Quiz.
Yep.
And he was like, fuck, man, I'll see what I can do. I told him what happened. Like, I was away on holiday, came back, this happened, they benched me with no warning, pretty much. He was like, yeah, I'll see what I can do. And then Mitch messages me, he's like, what the fuck's going on? Like, I'm just like, bro, I got dropped. I'm playing calls with these guys. This is it. I'm in. And And then Mitch made a tweet. He asked me, he was like, can I make a tweet about this? Just so, people aren't saying, what the fuck's going on? Why is Odah playing polls? How's this allowed?
Yeah.
So he goes, Odah's been allowed to move to Ludovico to play the quals because he got benched, blah, blah, blah. And this was like, only a few hours after roster lock anyway. And then I get a message from, actually first I get a message from Fishoguy, Brendo, and they're saying, sorry, it had to happen this way, blah, blah, blah. I'm just like, yeah, bro, whatever. I actually messaged Chu and I said, congrats, bro, you deserve it. I hope you fucking take this opportunity. And then I think a few days passed by and I get a message from Sajon. Mate, he's fucking pissed. He's like, oh, so this is what you wanted to happen. He's like talking about that I planned it. This is what I wanted to leave. All this sort of stuff. And I'm like, what the fuck are you on about? Why would I want to leave the top team in the region that I built up, by the way? Literally built up. Like, we fought Relos. We built up this team. Yep. Then we lost Relos again. And I've brought players in and out. I've been the main core of it. I've been the captain, been the leader. Why would I just want to disappear? Like, be gone? And we just got GG. We're getting paid good money.
Yep.
And I said that to him, and then he goes to me. He's like saying, "Oh, we just wanted to bench you for the season and then bring you back on." And I was like, "Well, that's not what Titan said to me."
Yeah.
I was like, in that group chat, he literally said to me, "Oh, in November, you're free to go look at options." That's when.
Cool.
Yeah, he didn't say, "Oh, the boys want to bench you and then bring you back on," or after the stage we'll bring you back in, or it was none of that. It was literally, yep, November, your contract expires, you'll be able to go. But I wasn't signed at the time. He was just saying, like that sort of thing. And I sent that to Sajon, and he goes, "Oh, interesting. I don't know what to say." And I'm sitting there like, well, your coach is lying to you, pretty much. He's pretty much, gone behind your backs, lied to what he was going to say to me, dropped me. I don't know what he told them, but it wasn't the same thing. You know what I mean? Yeah, so that was kind of just like the transition to, getting benched and going into, that new team.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, the thing is, we've already talked about this, but like to go back over it is just kind of, it's insane, the events. And I'm sure that, those guys have their perspective on it. I'm sure Titan has his perspective on it, what he was trying to do. And I'm not here to take sides. It's fucked. But I'm not here to take sides. I've got to ask you bluntly something that I couldn't really ask you on broadcast that I had to be super cautious of. I wasn't trying to kickstart anything more than I already was, which was continuing to hound the GG players with questions about why this has happened, to which I was met with some of the most ridiculous answers I have ever had in my life. Super disappointed from that front. But what did it, like, in that moment? Like, you're a pretty stoic young man. You're a happy-go-lucky guy. You're serious when it comes to competition, but you're a good fella outside of it. What did it feel like getting that kind of, like, coming to the realization of, oh shit, not only are they benching me, but Titan saying basically move on in November or go and have a look at different options. What does it feel like? You've built a team. Really, for 4 years, you'd built a team. You were in the trenches the whole time. You'd seen 10 players-ish come and go. You'd seen change of management. And for this to happen, kind of what seemed outwardly, and I'm sure inwardly, so sudden, how did that actually feel? How did that impact you?
Oh, it was crazy, because when we got GG and picked up Titan, it was an all-time high. You got international coach, international org, just moved out of home, got a missus, then all of a sudden, you get benched, and it changes a lot. Your income changes. I just moved, can't pay rent anymore. You get a bit depressed, bro. I built that shit from the ground up, 4 years in the works. And those are the mates that we've spent, time in other countries, time together. And all of a sudden, you go from being with these people for years to not even talking to them the next day.
Yeah.
And it happens for what? I probably didn't talk to Wet for maybe like 6 months after that or something. You know what I mean?
Fuck. Yeah. I mean,
a lot changes.
That's enough to okay, I'm not trying to fuel the fire here, but that is enough to not talk to someone again after the fact. You know, this is not only is it esports, it's a bit of fun where we're on teams, but like it's business for you guys. It's business. It's your livelihood.
Yeah.
Like if that, you know, I just put myself in that perspective from a talent perspective, or you know, from a job I've worked in the past. If that had happened, I don't know if I'd have the same grace you do to stay calm and cool about it. You've been very, very forthcoming about that conversation, which was why I was so disappointed in the GG boys that they didn't take responsibility for the discussions or anything like that. And there are things that were going on in the background that I'm not going to go talking about publicly, but there are some things that have changed my perspective and my tone on the whole matter. However, I still think that it still rings true. Worst roster move I have ever seen in esports in Australia. Like, I'm not talking about internationally, whatever, but in Australia specifically, I've kept a decently close eye on CS over the years. This is by far, for me, one of the worst things that I'd seen happen. But then we get our redemption arc. We get the comeback, and I'm sure that all of these interviews and things that I'm talking about, you know, frustrated me while trying to talk to the GG boys, only built the storylines more throughout stage 2 and continued to compound things that were happening. But let's just kind of, I guess, try to recap this decently, because I still want to get your thoughts on this upcoming year, and we're already over an hour and 5 now. So stage 2 starts. Chiefs go, yeah, bugger it. We love you, boys. Again, for those of you that don't know, Chiefs and Bliss are owned by the same people now, and kind of interchangeably the brands can be used. So Chiefs pick you guys up, and you are looking like a really formidable roster. You got Kyra, you got Quiz, you got Tex, you got Player, you got all of these names that we've known in the region for such a long time and have been a staple. But then we get to, I think it was Playday 3 or 4. You guys are looking good. You verse GG for the very first time since it's happened. This is the grudge match of all grudge matches. It is a best of one. Quite simply put, it's do or die. Up until that point, I was like, geez, I wonder how GG are going to respond to this, how they're going to deal with this. And it looked pretty calm and composed from them throughout the entire game. And then I saw the player cams at the very end of the game. They kept saying, nah, don't care. You know, it's just another game. Then I saw what happened at the very end, and I'll put it up on the screen for everyone at home. The celebration of a 7-3 victory against a team that realistically were second best in the region at that point, I think showed everyone at home where emotions truly laid and what everyone thought of the situation. What was it like losing to them?
It wasn't hard because I knew they were the best, right? I was part of that team. I know they're the best. It was kind of just a learning point, to be honest. I didn't take it as, we've lost the stage. I knew it was a hard loss, but I think it was like one of my first losses in like a while, you know what I mean? So it was kind of just like, it's a learning point, boys. I think we had player playing at the time. Nervous. I think Cairo, Tex, I think Quiz, everyone was nervous. I honestly think I was the only one not nervous because I was just hungry for that game day.
Of course.
Which is understandable, right? They've also got the expectations now, picking up me, that they've got to beat GG now.
Yep.
So yeah, I think pressure got to them. I think we might have been a bit underprepared as well for that game day. But, you know, we kind of just said, that's what we got to expect come into playoffs, boys. That's the standard we got to be at. And then we kind of just, you know, carried out the rest of the season. I think we fought back pretty well. You know, we were undefeated again. Like, we only lost to GG in the preseason or whatever, well, pre-playoffs. But I think we just learnt a lot, and that was kind of like a big step for us, you know, towards that grand final.
Yep. And then the redemption, the arc we're talking about. This was all in the space of about 5 days. Again, I'll give the chronological context for the viewers at home. You guys play the APAC Cup, which is a qualifier to the FPS Day in Tokyo. Played that on the Sunday against them. This was the first time, I believe, that we saw Jigsaw actually
back,
in the roster. First game he's back, drops 24, 25 kills. I think it was on Clubhouse or something ridiculous like that. Look, you go on to lose that series, even though it was a close series, it was still tight. We then get to OCE League playoffs on the Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. This is where the cookies crumble. And I think everyone was holding their breath for the Wednesday, which was the grand final. We won't talk about the pre-matches or anything like that. We'll just talk about the game itself and the 5 days between the APAC Cup and then the OCE League grand final. You lose to them in a best of 3 in the APAC Cup. I'm sure you're probably thinking at that point, it's not a major. Yes, it's an international event. Would love to have gone to Japan. That is what it is. You get to OCE League. That is for the cookies. Montreal on the line. Heart, soul on the line. Going into that game, what is going through your head? Don't worry about the team. What's going through your head at that stage?
I remember that day is actually, I think the night before. I don't know if I've said this to you before. I think I have. I was literally laying in bed. I think the night before, or maybe on game day. I was laying in bed, just eyes closed, and I was just thinking about the game. I'm literally thinking in my head about winning, about how the rounds are playing out. In my head, I'm making big plays. Like I'm pretty much in a dream, I'm just laying in bed. It's rolling through my head. To be honest, I wasn't really nervous. I think just because I was so on this revenge arc, and that if I lost, it means nothing.
Yeah.
Because the expectation is for them to win. I'm pretty much the underdog at this point. So like you still have nerves leading into the server. Don't get me wrong. But I'm not sitting there all day like, oh, fuck, man, I got to beat these guys. What am I going to do? I'm just like, it's another game. In my head, I'm picturing winning. I'm actually picturing the Manic Monday interview after the game. Like, I'm not even kidding. I'm picturing like the post-game interview.
Yeah.
I hit my normal routine, which is, shower, meditation, all that.
Mm-hmm.
Just having a normal day. And then we get to, the vetoes and all that. The boys were just pretty much confident. I think we gained a lot of confidence through that Japan qual, even though we lost.
Yep.
Seeing Jig back, seeing that we could. I think every map was 8-7.
That was a barn burner.
Yeah, we just knew that we could compete now, and we kind of knew that like they'd be worried now as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think the boys just mentally were like, we can beat these guys. There's no worry right now. Compared to like when we versed them in the VO1 where everyone was shitting their undies, you know what I mean? So big mental change.
I suppose they really did they probably felt the weight of the entire conversation on their shoulders as well. They probably felt like they wanted to do right by you. Like I know those players personally, some of them quite well, and I know that they would have been sitting there just as hungry as you were to beat them. So, to come back and then I guess make it to a grand final again where you're going to be in the same position. One of the most controversial things that has ever happened in OCE outside of you being dropped, I will say. The grand final is played. Again, I'm trying to wrap this up as quick as I can so that the viewers at home don't go for a 2-hour long podcast. Map 1, map 2, close game. We're sitting on the edge of our seats. Everyone, like every minute, you're kind of hanging on to your breath. Every clutch, you're losing your shit with the casters at the time. I think Vinny was next to me and Dev. We were just like mouth wide open. Get to map 3. I think I can't remember what the score was. It was still.
We started slow, slow. They were up at the half 4-2.
Okay, there you go. You go. And then it happens.
Yeah, just the disconnect.
Internet goes down at home. Odah. You and Jigsaw are playing in the same room now. The important part of this conversation is about 2-3 weeks prior, a player lost internet in the OCE League and they were forced to forfeit after 10 minutes. That is the rule. It's within 10 minutes. So I can only tell you what's happening in the studio at that point with the admins and the production team. Everyone's losing their shit trying to get in touch with you guys, trying to figure out what's happened. We're messaging Rob from Blast, who, is the leader of the League Ops team. And like, it's going back and forth.
Yeah.
You guys pick up shop from your home in Queensland and drive 30 minutes, is it, to the Bliss headquarters?
No, it's only 12 minutes.
Okay, so it's even closer. But let's for the sake of it, because I think the break ended up being 45 minutes we waited for.
Yeah.
You guys get there, you set up. So internet goes down. There's no sign of it coming back. You get in the car. You're driving across to the Bliss headquarters, calling people saying, hey, we are on our way. Do not forfeit this game. We're going to be there as soon as possible. what I guess that final map leading into those last couple of rounds. What's going on? How do you guys recenter? Because we had heard a little bit of comms from GG, and they were really not happy by that 45-minute mark. Understandably, I'm not going to sit here and say that doesn't make sense. Makes pure sense. It was absolute anarchy, and we were all sitting back kind of, I guess we were kind of laughing at the irony of everything that had happened and the fact that the grand final day had come and the internet had dropped.
Yeah.
But you get to the studio, you get to the Bliss headquarters, you're playing on different peripherals, or sorry, you're playing on different setups, I should say, not peripherals. I don't know what you did. Those last couple of rounds, I mean, inching closer and closer and closer, feeling that momentum swing back. Did you feel like that was a driving force?
I think our mental played a big part of it. I think because when our net dropped out, I was laughing. I was like, this is how it's going to end. I was like, this is how it's going to end, isn't it? And then you get the opportunity to, travel to a different setup that has power. I mean, it has internet. You set up and then you're straight back into it. It wasn't like guys, have a 5-minute break and talk it out. It was like, right, guys, you're in, bang, lobby starts.
Yeah.
And we just kept saying, I think it was Jig, was like, guys, these guys have just been sitting here, waiting. They're not going to be locked in. We just need to lock in straight away and upset them. I think one of the first plays Jig made was just ran straight down main stairs on bank and just killed Wet because he just didn't expect it.
Yeah.
And I think that first round ended up coming back to like a 2v4 with me and Quiz.
Yes.
And it was just like, oh, fuck it, what can we do, Quiz? Quiz is like, oh, I've got a guy elevator. I'm just like, Quiz, man, I'm just going to drop hatch, bro, fuck it. So then, like, Quiz is like fighting 2 guys. I'm like, I drop hatch. Quiz kills 1. I start planting, and then Quiz kills Fisho. So now it's a 2v2. I start planting, Quiz dies, Breno comes sprinting at me. I get off plant, kill him. And then it's a 1v1. It's me and Tuhan, the guy who's replaced me. I stick plant, bomb goes down. I kill Tuhan. I think Xenox goes off. He's like, oh, Odah versus Tuhan, it was meant to be. And then you see me at the end of that 1v1, and I just take a deep breath. I start going to my box breathing, and you just Xenox goes, oh, look how much it means to him, whatever.
Oh, mate, Odah looks like he's very very happy with that one.
Look at what it means to these players, though.
And it did. It was like, I got this opportunity to, beat my old team and actually get my revenge. 100%, it meant so much. You know what I mean?
Like looking back on it, still like just the from the moment you got dropped until the moment you guys qualify for a major, I think we were all just in absolute awe as to what we were given. Like OCE League up until that point was a bit of shenanigans. It was a bit of fun. Yeah. This is the first time there's ever been 2 viable teams since Blast have taken over. The first time we've had 2 teams actually compete for a qualifier that we knew it was even footing, that we knew was going to be a close match, and it delivered. It delivered on all accounts. And then you guys get to go overseas. You deny GG, the former team, the roster, the coach, you deny them the opportunity to go to Montreal. But more importantly, a flow-on effect from that is it actually stunts everyone from SI, which in the end shoots everyone in the foot. An eye for an eye, and literally everyone goes blind heading into 2025. So transitioning away from stage 2 just very quickly into Montreal, are you happy with how the team performed? Are you happy with where that is? Does it set you on a good stepping stone for this year?
100%. The way I seen how we performed at Montreal was, with my old team, we were placing around the same. I won't count SI, but like Manchester, we won 2 games, we lost 3. So us doing that as our first time as a team at an event, I was happy with. Yeah. Even though we only beat APAC teams, they were pretty convincing wins. It wasn't like, some OT games. It was like, oh, we actually beat these guys. I think we got farmed by Team Liquid, Falcons, VP.
Falcons smacked you, lads. I tell you.
Oh man, it was crazy. But I think we learned so much. It kind of felt like when we first went as a team, as Team Bliss.
Yeah.
Where we just copped it and learned so much. So it's like, now we have that opportunity again. We've copped it now. Now it's time to put the work in. Come back even stronger for 2025.
Yeah. speaking of 2025, mate, what's in store? How are you guys feeling coming into the new year? Obviously, a shift in format, a quite dramatic shift actually at that. We're now going to APAC lands, all of these kind of things. What are you expecting for the roster? What are you expecting for yourself?
I'm still expecting to make majors, to be honest. I'm not. I know it's a new system. I know we're going to versus APAC teams, if you want to call it that, Brazilian teams, EU teams, whatever it is. I'm still confident in my boys. We have released Kyra and Player.
Yep.
Our fifth isn't announced yet. Don't know when this podcast is out, but I think we've picked up a strong player.
It'll be out next week, so it's up to you. It's up to you whether you want to leak that or hold on to it.
We'll hold on to it, leave it as a cheeky one. But I think who we've picked up is a strong player. I think I've told you who it is, I believe.
You've told me, and I was very happy to hear that.
Yeah, I think 2025 is going to be a big one. I think it's already started well, right? Like, we versed GG in the SI LCQ, beat them. They lost to Supernova. Then we beat them in the Gauntlet for Rex, dominating them. So, I think, they had to import something, you know what I mean?
Some imports, some differences in OCE alone. I'm not gonna mention anything. I don't know. Let's keep mouths shut. Let's not go and break silence on things that we do or do not know, whether it's well known or not. But I guess just capping off everything, it's been a wild ride for you. It's been. You are now in my eyes when I look at this. I think it might be you and Fisho that have been to the most majors. I'm trying to think whether... Did Fisho go with Chiefs back in Sweden? I think he did,
He went to Sweden, but he missed out on Charlotte Major.
Yeah, so I think looking at that, you guys are now even. Diesel, I think, made it to 3. Ethan... I'm going to call you and Fisho the most coveted players in terms of OCE anyway.
Mag could be up there, I'm pretty sure.
Oh, look, Mag went to Japan. Mag went to Japan. Any player that left OCE, get out of here. Jigsaw as well. I don't care how many international events he does or doesn't make. He doesn't count anymore. But I think that it sums up a pretty incredible career so far from you, and there's no signs of it slowing down. So I'm going to do what I always do, Odah. And I'm going to give you the floor here to allow you to... It's been a hot minute since we last did this. But instead of anything you'd like to say to the people at home, I'm just going to leave it open for you. You've got the entire 2025 topic. You can recap GG. You can talk to the haters. You can build bridges if you want. This is your time. This is your space.
I'll just say that I think 2025 is going to be a big year. Mm-hmm. It started with potential roster changes of me and Jig going to GG.
Yep.
But obviously talks didn't go through. I won't say why or who. But yeah, we're staying with Chiefs for 2025. And I just really appreciate them a lot. From sticking with me, from losing Relos back in Team Bliss in 2021 to making majors with them and then getting dropped and actually get our team actually moving on to a new roster. And, they still wanted to house me. They still wanted to, they wanted to miss out on the season, but they said, no, Odah's LFT. He's on a new roster. Oh, let's just pick him up. Yeah. I delivered, making them another major. So I appreciate them. I appreciate the OCE community and all my mates I've made internationally. I appreciate the support. Getting dropped, they were all DMing me. And, I think all the fans are on my side going to that revenge arc. And it was just a good feeling to have a community behind you, to be honest. I just appreciate it a lot. So, yeah, I hope I deliver for them for 2025.
Mate, it's bittersweet to end an hour and a half podcast on a beautiful note, but I think it's the best way to do it. Thank you for everyone watching at home. Don't forget the reload is coming up in Rio. Back to Brazil for the Siege community once again. I believe tickets are still available as of this podcast release, so be sure to go ahead and grab your tickets if you are able to travel. If not, make sure you tune in from home. Otherwise, we will see you in the next episode. Odah, my friend, it's always a true pleasure to interview you, and I'm sure there'll be plenty more of these.
Mate, appreciate you having me. I love it.
I love you, mate. I love you. I'll give you a kiss.
Love you too,
later.
mate.
All right. Thanks for watching, everyone. We'll see you next time.